Alright, quick little video here just to fill you in with what I've been doing. Making up the adapter plate for the MX5 NA box. I made this up just on the lathe just before. So it's got a 15mm inner that it fits onto the 15mm there. As you can see, it's all nice and concentric. And then I've also made another to go on the focus box. And the good thing about the focus box, even though it's a front wheel drive box, but the bolt pattern is the same for the focus motor, of course. And the starter motor is in exactly the same spot as the NA Mazda box. So what I've done is I've made up a little adapter so that will fit onto there. 15mm on the outside. Didn't really matter what the large part of that was, because that's not really needed. And this is just the starter of what I've done. So I've just drawn on the outside of the Focus front wheel drive box, and I will, well, and it's all lined up for the center hole. So I'm going to draw the two shapes on of the Focus pattern and also the Mazda pattern, but I want to locate the bolt holes on this before I go any further, because I need to shorten this end here a little bit so that this bit here, I can't turn this off anymore, otherwise the 15mm will fall into the 15mm hole and then this whole thing will fall off. So it's completely useless if that happens. So do this first, locate the bolt holes onto this pattern that I'm making, and then I will shorten this by, I don't know, it's probably about 5-10mm or something. That will be determined when I come down to put it back on, and then I'll put that jig on here and put the pattern, and I'll locate off exactly the same central point. Then we can figure out what we need to do to make up the adapter plate. Anyway, I've got to go home now. Kids coming over. Alright, well, I've started marking out the holes. Yeah, there's one there. Holes, all the 10mm. And what I did is I turned up this. And it's all being turned to the center. And basically you just wind it from the underneath, you get it threaded in. This one's going to take a while because there's a very thick casting on this. Basically you just wind it in until it pokes out the top. Wind it in until it pokes out the top. And I clamped off the piece of wood whilst it was all centralised on the main shaft. And I spiked all the 10mm holes that were all the way through. That one, but I think the rest are internal holes, so I can't do them. But it's only really going to be like these holes at the top that are really going to be effective for what I want. Now I'm going to drill them out to a 10mm. All the holes that I've put in there, and I will screw this onto here. And then I'll mark out the next lot of holes, because these top holes, see, this is the 10mm, but these are like a 12mm. So 12 or 11, it doesn't really matter. I'll just make up a little centralizing punch to exactly the same size as the hole, and I will, after I bolt the bit of wood back onto the gearbox with the holes that I put on with my little spike, I will then find these other locations. Alright, I now know that this all lines up bloody perfectly. You can't see that, well, you might be able to just see the input shaft of the gearbox through the center of that hole perfectly, and all these other holes that I put in there line up perfectly. Now I thought I'd double check myself. The top of the Focus gearbox, they're definitely larger hole than what's on the Anglia bell housing or the Sierra bell housing. But I just had a little look, and I'm going to take off the Sierra bell housing And I just measured these holes here, and they look like they're a 10mm. So it'll make my life just a little bit easier to take the bell housing off, and I'll just put it onto the gearbox. I am going to have to make up something so I can locate the starter holes on this before I take this off, but the top other holes I won't have to bother with that. I'll just work with what I got with the Sierra bell housing. But I'll just have a little think before I do this, but we're pretty much at the next step here. All right, sweet. Well, I made this up very simply on the lathe, just a bit of wood, made a dowel up. That's 11mm, which I thought it was 12, but it's actually 11. 5-speed focus gearbox. Bolted it back down, and I've just marked out. I'll show you. Just there we go. And you put it in, it just goes in quite easily into the hole. There we go. Yeah. Go up. Mark it with a little centered out bit that I've got, which is just a gal nail that I ground the tip on, as you can see. And I've just done that to the other two starter holes, starter motor holes, and then the two, there's actually two top ones and a third one over here for the starter motor. Well, actually it's two for the starter motor like that, and then there's two top holes. So marked the lemon because they're the 11mm, although I think they've got a 10mm bolt that goes through them, but just like that's the Sierra 5-speed. So the Sierra bell housing, what I'll do to get the other holes off it, because I don't want the starter motor down here, I'm going to bolt that up soon to this. I'm going to drill the other holes in, then we can work out where these other bolts go. Although that really won't really matter, we'll just have to really work out where the Mazda box goes. I'm a little bit of a step closer now. Yay! Alright, you can see where I've marked out the holes. There's one here, and there's two for the starter motor over here. I've got my awl. I'm going to go and make those holes a little bit bigger, then take them over to the drill press and drill them in. 10mm, even though they're 11 on the Focus, but it's got a dowel, so I think there's the like I said, that they're 10mm nose on the Sierra, so I'm just going to make these 10, make life easy. Well, I haven't bolted it all the way down because I don't think it was really any point, but it was just more to see if the holes lined up, which of course they do perfectly. And I just had a bit of a thought just looking at the Focus motor. Now, what you could probably do, which I'll have to have a look, but I'm pretty sure that the inside of the sandwich plate for the back of the Zetec Mark 1 Focus motor, the sandwich plate that goes between the front wheel drive gearbox, which has got an angular bell housing on at the moment, but the sandwich plate should have exactly the inside of the gearbox cut out of it. So I'm thinking that I should be able to line the sandwich plate up and use that with the plasma cutter when we go to cut the inside of the bell housing out. But that's enough work for today. I've got to now I've got to machine off a little bit of this. I think I said it was about 10mm. It's probably a bit less than 10mm, but that is the next step so that I can line the MX5 box up. And that's going to be the next one. Yeah, this, I can't turn this off anymore, but I can shorten that to make it all fit. So that's the next step. Machine off a little bit of this and start looking at how we're going to do that. And in my ultimate wisdom before, whilst I was on the lathe making up a little dowel with a little hole through it, we have a 16, a 15 and a 14mm hole, and these are around about a 12mm. They look like they're about a ½ inch off memory when I just looked at them. I didn't measure the other ones, but in my ultimate wisdom when I was doing stuff, I made up, where did I put it? It was a dowel that had all the sizes on it. Oh, here it is, over here. Here it is. So we've got 16, 15, 14, and on the end I had the 11. Now when we go to, I'll make up whatever the size, I can turn that up to the 12 point whatever, and I've got the 16, or I can use any of this because it's all bigger than what I need. But I've basically done all the hard work to start making this sort of all fit. And that was the 14, I think that's this one up here. Yeah, so that's pretty much there. Yeah, it's like interference fit, so I just need a little tiny bit of sanding, and that one will go in. And of course, will come in from the backside when we go to spike it. But that's kind of like the next thing we got to do. Anyway, you can only do so many things on a Saturday morning at 2.5 hours whilst you're getting paid. When no customers come in, what else are you going to do? Work on gearboxes. Yep, beautiful. Well, I've put on the front plate again, all this little jig we're making up. Lined it up with that little jig ice I made up for centering the input shaft of the gearbox onto that. And I've lined it up very nicely on that the center of the casting with my little centering mark there that goes down straight down through here. I still want to add a little bit, as you can see, to the jig, which that will be not too difficult to do. I've still got some ply left over there. And now I've marked on, you know, making up a whole lot of these little dowels of different sizes with the pin. You know, mark through using them. There's a whole lot of different size holes for this, but it's mainly this size here. These starter holes are a bit smaller, but I'm not going to use those 2 starter holes because they interfere with the other 2 holes on the other side that I'm going to be using for the Focus starter. Marked out all the other holes. That's one of the bigger dowels I made up in the other video. Marked out all the holes, and now I'm just going to take it off to have a look and see how we're all lined up. We'll see how it looks after that. I've taken off the back of the gearbox now, and you can see all the holes. You actually see that the actual holes of the gearbox that have been printed from the dusty aluminium. But I just had a little quick look, but it looks like these 4 bottom are all the same size, and I think one of the top ones are as well. But basically, I'll use these to line up the adapter plate off what holes I drill into it, and then the rest I can just use whatever they are. I might have to make up a little turn up some little sleeves to put around it. I don't know yet. I'll sort of think of that when I come to doing it. But next step is I've got to get some bolts for these because they're bigger than the Focus or the Sierra. So that's the next thing I've got to do. That's as much as I can do it on it today until I work out what I need. I'm going to go and measure them up, and I'll go and get some bolts. Alright, well, I spent a little bit of time in the lathe this afternoon making these up. 10mm center hole, which will be for that, and it's 19mm on the outside. And basically what I made them up is for, there's 2 dowels, there's one here and there's one directly on the other side, which go through too. So what I'm going to do is they're exactly a tolerance fit, so I'm going to I'll go and smack them in just a minute, or I might put them in the freezer overnight and then smack them in tomorrow morning. But I think what I'll just do is just tap them in now. It should be alright. And I'm pretty sure with just those 2 it should line up pretty damn well off these holes. We'll just see. But that's one of the first steps. I might have to make up some other ones for maybe that one and that one, but I'm thinking I might just use all 10mm, although I might use some 12mm for the bottom, even though it's like it's a 14mm hole on this side, but it's almost like a 13 or just under 13 on the other side. So we'll see what I'm going to do. But next step, I'm going to whack these in, Yeah, alright. Alright, well, I just drilled the 2 holes out for the other side, but the dowel is. It's looking very nice and centered on the casting with my center line. And if I try and move it, because the 10 mils are in the center of the dowels, it doesn't move up or down or left and right now. Let's see, like trying to move it, doesn't move. So I'm very happy with that. I was almost thinking, see, tapped them in. I'm almost thinking that this one here's a blind dowel. It's probably 19 as well. I haven't actually measured it, but I'm thinking that I might even make one up. I'll just have to see how close it is to one of the. Yeah, I don't know. It might be a bit too close to this here, but we'll see. Maybe, but I might use either. Which one aren't I going to use? Oh, that's right. This one. Maybe one of the other ones. I haven't actually decided yet. But anyway, look, that's lining up perfectly anyway. So I think that's just what I'm going to do. Excellent. Next step. Yeah. So I will, in due course, I'm going to drill out the rest of the holes for the rest of the MX5 box, and I will start making up. I've got to order a bit of steel, and I've got to take off the sandwich plate off that. Yeah, but looking through the center hole when I had it on the gearbox, I'll just see how it goes back on. It's pretty bloody easy. I haven't bolted it on because they're just. There we go. Very nice. And you probably can't see. No, I can't. It's too dark. But the I had a look with the torch just a minute ago, and the center of the input shaft of the gearbox is directly lined up. So I'm very happy about that. I will add a little bit more to this just so we can have the final outside shape, but the 400 by 400 bit of steel will work perfectly. Sweet. All right, so today I made up this other dowel, and I was which hole we're going to use up. So we've got 16.2 mil on the big end and 15.2 on the other end. Then sort of just I made it longer than what I need to. It's just a bit over 40 mil long. 10 mil hole on the inside. But I made that up to locate the final location hole for the adapter plate. So these holes are all tapered, but this is the biggest out of the tapered holes that go into the fascia of the gearbox, or whatever you call that side. But what I made up to locate the whole thing, because it when you triangulate something with 3 bolts, it really locates it nicely. So I've made this up. This goes in here. I'm just got to give it a tiny little tap with a hammer to get him in there, and there we go. Now with the 3 holes, when I put this on, everything lines up perfectly. Just gonna push these in. There we go. And now nothing moves at all if I try and, it moves this way a little bit because that's coming out and I haven't bolted it on, but just having those 3 bolts in there, it now doesn't move at all. So they're going to be the perfect location holes for what I need. These 3, and I'm still going to drill out. There's 2 top ones that will go in, and there's a whole lot of bottom ones that also will go in. And that'll be we'll be a little bit step closer. I've got to get some bolts. Tomorrow I'll go down to Coventry Fasteners and I'll have a look, and we'll find what we need. And then I've got to order the steel, and we should be almost at the stage of bolting this onto the back of the Zetec, which that'll be really good. Pinto clutch, 5-speed MX5, and we'll work out the whole conversion, because we'll need an adapter plate up for this to this is a diesel box. It's got a long shaft on it, so that's going to be the other conversion I'll work out how to do. But I think the MX5 box will be a much better box, just all in all, compared to the Type 9's, like not such a strong box. It's a much stronger box, and they're cheap, so that's a good thing. All right, well, I think that's it for this little video. All right, well, that's all the holes drilled in. I've added the little top bit to the jig, just to get the outside shape so I can score it. I've just sort of marked with some French curves these areas like here, just to go down to make it a little bit easier for cutting, but we need to incorporate that hole for the starter motor, for the Zetec starter motor. I'm just going to cut the outside out in the bandsaw now. Have to fill that up. That's a Zetec hole, so don't need that. We don't really need any hole for the Zetec below here, because we're going to be using a different sump. But we will need for the Mazda gearbox, which are these four down the bottom. That one's going to be deleted. I'm going to go and cut it out now. Beautiful. Well, I've cut out the jig, the little drilling jig that we made up, and I've also cut out the just a bit of steel, 6mm steel for the adapter plate. Now the next step is I'm going to go and draw on here which holes are the Mazda and which ones are the Ford holes. I just got a couple of different colours. There is, like, this hole here is actually for the back of a 1600, so that will not be used because the starter motor is going there. But that one's 1600 and Zetec. That one there is also Zetec, the smaller one, and that one I think Zetec. Anyway, I'm just going to go and figure all that out. I'm just going to draw the colours on what needs to be done, so I know which hole has got to be drilled out for what purpose. And then we'll talk about which ones are going to be going through, which one's going to be countersunk, and all that sort of stuff. All right, now I've colour-coded the holes, so I know which hole will go towards the engine and which ones go towards the gearbox. So the red holes are the red holes in the Mazda box. They're going to go towards the gearbox, and the green holes are going to go towards the engine. Now these two holes here are a tapped hole on the back of the engine, so they're going to have to be a countersunk hole, and they're going to be the first two ones we bolt onto. We'll bolt this flywheel, well, this adapter plate to the back of the engine with. Okay, this one is not going to be used, but just in case I want to use this jig for making a different shape up for a starter motor that's on the bottom, say a Sierra bell housing, or I like better the Anglia bell housing. That would work quite nicely as well. I'll just have to make up a different bottom section to this jig, make up another wooden jig. It's not going to be that hard because I've already got all the hole placement. All right, well, the next step is I'm going to basically clamp this together onto the bit of metal, and I'm going to start drilling out some holes, and I'm going to drill out these two first because they are going to go out to a 10mm hole for our 10mm, well, M10 that goes in the back of the motor. They're going to be the first two ones I drill out. Then I will take this off and I will drill out a lot more of the holes, but I will bolt the whole thing together through these two first. So clamp together, drill, then take off, then drill all the way through the 10mm, come back, bolt the jig together, and then I'll start to just to blind, like, drill these other holes. And when we do this, because I've also color coded the back as well, we're going to place the jig face down, so if there's any discrepancy between the hole not being straight, because it's all been taken off the other side, remember, so I'm going to drill going down to what should be the most accurate side of this jig. Alright, well, I'm going to drill out these two first of all, I just said, and then we'll bolt the whole thing together and come back. We need to drill out basically every other hole except for these two to an 8.5, even though I've drilled the 10s. They're all 10s except for this one here, there's an 8, but there's a reason for that and we'll get to that a bit later. But these two to 10, and then I will just go lightly in for the rest of the holes with the 10, so I get the center mark on them, and then I'm going to come back and drill the rest out with an 8.5 so I can tap them with an M10 drill bit. Alright, well, I'm going to go and do that. Okay, now I've drilled out just a little bit. As you can see, they've all been just marked on, and I also put the location of the 15mm on the center. I spiked that one in, and that's just going to help us with cutting out the internal circle with the plasma cutter. So that's sort of the next step. Before I unclamp this all the way, I'm also going to scribe around the outside of our template onto the steel as best as I can. Give us a good idea of exactly where it's going to go. And then I'm going to unclamp the whole thing, and we'll then drill out almost everything to an 8.5 millimeter, except these two here, that one. Alright, let's do that. Okay, well, I just drilled out the 10mm holes, and I had a look at the starter before I did this because it has two tapped holes, one there and one there, and the bottom one goes on sort of like that sort of way on the engine. The bottom one is not a tapped hole, it's just a straight through hole. So on the plate I've drilled out these two to the 10 and these two also to the 10, and they're going to be the countersunk holes going that way to the engine. These two will bolt directly in with a flush mounting, I don't have one here to show you, but the bit that will, a countersunk bit, that's what I'm talking about. These will all be countersunk bits going into tapped holes. This one on the starter motor is not that just straight through, so that will just be tapped out to an M10 so we can bolt it through the other way, going that way. And all the rest are going to be done, all the rest of the holes on this will be drilled out to an 8.5mm hole, ready to be tapped out to an M10. That's our next step, drill all the other holes out to an 8.5. I've got a bit right here. Don't know if you can see it, not there, 8.5. There we go, beautiful. All right, I've drilled out all the holes to 8.5 that were remaining. And now I'm going to tap it out to an N10. That's a starting tap. I've also got a intermediate, which goes like from intermediate to all the way. It's going to be a two-stage sort of process, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back over to the drill press. I'm not going to use the drill press whilst it's running, but I'm going to use the drill press because it's nice and square going down. I'll show you the setup in a second, but I've got a little centering pin that goes into the chuck of the drill press, and there's a little hole at the top of the tap, see there? We get this into the hole, one of the holes that we're going to tap, so this one here, and we're going to have that in the hole. We're going to set it up in the drill press so that's on top, and I'll put some pressure on it, and then we can tap straight down just by turning this round. And then we'll get all the holes perfectly straight that need to be tapped out, and that's going to be the next step. I just lined up the hole at the bottom with the 8.5, and then I took the 8.5mm drill bit out, and now I'll put the starting tap in, and that will just align. I'll push down the drill press, and that will just align with the center hole that's on the tap, and then we just got to tap it in just by turning the handle of the tap, quite simply. All right, that's as simple as it is. Come on. There we go. Alright, that's all the holes drilled and tapped. Now I'm going to have to finish them off with the this one here that I've just been using as a starting tap. Don't know how focused that's going to be, but that's a starting tap. Now I'm going to go to a finishing tap and get it all done. So you can see here that the setup was quite easy. Still got the centering bit in there. Alright, it's almost done. I just bolted on the adapter plate to see if it all lines up, and it lines up pretty much bloody perfectly, so I'm pretty happy with that. My next step is to get some 10mm M10s for basically everything, except for these. They've got to be M10s, but they've got to go the opposite way. So I had a little think as well about trying to make things easy to get the starter motor out. So if these are loose, well, you can't, they've got to be, it's really got to be bolted from the other side through the starter motor, as you can see that way, and it's going to be difficult to, if it's got the gearbox on, it's going to be very hard to take it out. So I can either drill them out, which I'm not going to do, but I will probably mill a little slot in the end of the M10s that go through, and work out exactly where they go through, mill a little slot, so if we need to get the starter motor out, we can just put a screwdriver in it and basically unscrew the bolt, so it will actually push it out from the blind hole. And if you can see, you know, it'll be behind there somewhere, and you can't get a screwdriver to it. So that's what I was thinking. I might just try and make that a little bit easier to work with. That one won't be a problem, but these two will be. But that's all right, we'll figure that out. Well, I'm just about to set up to start cutting this out. I'm just going to cut it out sort of piece by piece, you know, over here, and we'll sort of work our way around and see what we can do. Well, better get to it. Well, now I've marked out where the holes in the inside are got to be cut out. Quite simple. I just tapped a M4, and I've got a little slot on this side and this side, and all I do is I just put this up to the slot, and then I drag it round using two hands, of course. That's really quite simple. And I got the sandwich plate, and I just bolted that on and just scribed where that's got to go. So that's sort of as simple as it was to mark that out. But now I've got to cut it all out. Well, I basically finished making the plate. I did a bit more grinding this morning to finish off getting the starter motor to fit in there so it's flush up against the plate, which it is now. I've still got to countersink this hole, and these other two just here. But now that it's all bolted to the back of the engine, I can also measure how far I need. Like, you know, these ones I'll work out, but you know, other ones that go all the way through, like that one's going to go that way through, so I've got to work out how long I need for that, plus this one over here and another one down there. But I can get a pretty good idea of what size bolts I need now. I might go ahead and put the clutch on the back. I hooked it all up to see the starter motor working with the flywheel and everything, but unfortunately the battery was completely dead. It's got 2 volts in it now, so we'll try that when we get a bit more charge. But this is really good. I know it now fits on the back of the motor. I've still got to drill one hole on this side. As you can see, that hole there's for the Zetec. You know, the Zetec hole is just a little bit higher here. But I'm going to drill an 8. Well, I'm going to tap an M8 in that one. We've got an M10 in this one. That will sort that out. The only other thing I've done is pull the dowels out of the back of the block. There's one there and one on this side. I just pulled them out. Made up a little drift to knock them out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably, and you can see how much I've got to sort of turn off one of them to be either flush or just below the level of the block. That one's for the 10mm, and I'll make another one up for the other side with the M8 in it. So that then this should all line up really quite nicely on the back of the engine. I mean, it already does, except it's just got a little tiny bit of play, but making up those new dowels will make it perfect. I'll do a little vid when this is all charged up, but it's going to take some time, I think, to charge that. So all right, well, that's sort of the next step. I'll put some paint on this next week, and I'll also get all the bolts, and I'll get a little list of exactly what fasteners I need to get this all bolted on nicely. Alright, that's all the next step done. Well, here we have it, it's all on. I installed the clutch in it, and I've done everything. I've even, put on the slave cylinder. I'm still going to have to adjust the fulcrum point a little tiny little bit, but you can see I put a spanner on it before I just pulled it over, and you can feel it engage the clutch quite easily. But it's all on there. It took me quite a little bit of time to countersink those holes and grind every nut and bolt to the point which they're flush with the adapter plate. But it's all on. It took me some time. I don't even know what the next step is. Probably I've got to start making something up for the back of this. I've got to make up some sort of thermostat housing. I don't know where I'm going to put the thermostat, if it's there, or it's got to go here and then it's got to go forward to the front of the car. I can buy one off Retro Ford, but I'd rather make it. It's not going to be that difficult, but I might have to do it in two sort of half shells of aluminium or something. Yeah, I don't know, it's coming along. But the 5-speed's on, that's the main thing at the moment. Battery's pretty much dead still. I've got to change the, got to take out the water in this and put some new demineralized water in it. But because I don't know if you can see, but if I give it a bit of a shake, it goes green, but it's not full. And it's only got about 2 volts in it, so it doesn't do anything to try and get the starter mode to work the flywheel, turn it around. But it's all very neat. I'm pretty happy with it. But that's the next stage of this little motor conversion. And people think I'm a bit crazy, like, using a Zetec in one of these things, but I mean, over in Europe, it's a pretty it's quite a desirable engine for these conversions into the 4-speeds, because it bolts onto the 4-speed. But now we've got a Mazda 5-speed on it, so that's a different thing altogether. The reason why I want to use the Focus motor in Australia more than anything is the fact that they're very cheap to buy. So if you wanted to race these, they're a very good motor. They'll take quite a bit of power, and just off standard everything, you can get quite a lot of horsepower out of them. You have to go to a different mapped ECU, but that's all right. I'm going to be just going with the standard one with this one. But the next step with this gearbox, the only thing I really got to do is move the position of this by 1 bolt, so it'll go that much further forward. which works out to be almost exactly the same position for the standard Escort or GT remote shifter position. But yeah, that's it. I'm very happy. I torqued up the bolts. I sort of looked online to see what people torque these things up to, and I've done it at, I forgot what I did. I think I did 55 foot-pound or very close to it. Oh, sorry, it was 37 foot-pound it was. About 37 foot-pound. Give you an idea. We could go probably a little tiny bit more, but that's what I sort of ground the bolts for. It ain't going anywhere, so I'm pretty happy with that. And it lined up quite well with the clutch and everything. Just got to move the Falcon point a little bit, but I just said that before. We've got to make up an adapter for the speedo cable, but that's going to be something for the near future, just like the moving this forward. But you know, it's coming along. Pretty happy. Well, sweet.